G'day guys, Jono here for another episode of ForeverCruisin. So, in this episode, I'm rebuilding the 80 series starter motor. In the last couple of months I've been having the old Toyota click when you try and start it. You turn the key and all you get is a click. The engine doesn't try and turn over. It's just a click, 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 and then after sometimes 10 times it'll actually turn over. So I did a bit of research. What I found is it's often the contacts inside the solenoid, the current's not getting through, and the plunger's getting pulled into the contacts will touch, but only on one side. So I actually halfway through it at the moment. I've got the starter motor out. I've actually already rebuilt it. I filmed how to do it, so if you guys wanted to give it a shot yourselves, you can try and follow along. I don't know how good I am at explaining the steps to do it. I didn't record taking the starter motor out because I had no idea what I was doing. I just sort of dived in, started having a bit of a fiddle. Not nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. It took me about half an hour to get the starter motor out. So I'll show you me putting it back in, and then I guess you just do the reverse steps when you take it out at the start. The reason I wanted to give it a go is it cost me $55 for the parts to rebuild the starter motor, or I could have paid $500 for a new, genuine Toyota part. Even the aftermarket ones, which are a bit cheaper, still pretty costly, and to pay someone to do it costs you a fair bit. When you've got an old truck, it's worth giving it a shot. And so we'll put it back together and see if she actually starts. So we're in the old man's shed now. Got the starter motor out of the 80 series. So the easiest way to do this is to get a vise, tighten it in there, and as you can see, so this is where the solenoid is in here, and all the little electrical components that drives the actual motor itself. So you've got 3 Phillips head screws on a starter motor. So got a screwdriver I prepared earlier. Instead of doing that, I'm going to go and get a little socket and take them off. So got some of my pop side tools. Get a little spanner. Hopefully this will fit. Perfect. So this is a little 8mm spanner, or you can use a Phillips head screwdriver, but if you want to make sure you don't round the heads of the screws, a little spanner's the go. So make sure it's tight in the vise. So what I'm assuming we're going to find in here is a lot of corrosion and just sort of a bit of a gunk build up on the contacts inside this little housing. So you'll have to give that a little wiggle because it's been on there for the last 20 years. It'd probably be easier if I'd taken this off first. So I'll go and get a bigger spanner and take this off. It's actually right here. Had a couple of beers last night and we're a bit slow this morning. So it's just a 17mm spanner. So it's just got a little washer and nut on it. Now you're able to take that off to try and wiggle this cap off. So that's just the cap on it. You got a little rubber seal on it, gasket. And this is the plunger that comes in. So once you're inside the starter motor, you can see you got 1 contact and 2 contacts. I've already pulled the plunger out, which sits in this spring. So the way it works is this is in here. When the current goes through, the plunger gets pulled down, and then the brass contact, circular contact around the plunger goes across these two contacts and allows the current to go into the main motor itself, and that allows this car to start. And as you can see in here, this contact on this side is really worn, so I'll pull those out and I'll show you what they're actually like. On the other side, that one's actually okay, but I've got a new pack of contacts, so I'll replace those. So all you those off. And the one thing you have to watch out for when you're pulling off the other side is it's got this little earth wire, so as you're undoing the other side here, you just got to make sure this doesn't spin and snap that wire, otherwise you will be up for a new starter motor, unless you can solder that back together, which would be a pretty tough task. So just a quick shout out to my mum for holding this while we film this. Thanks, mum. So once you're taking the bolt off this side, you're able to just push this through. I think another washer on there. And you push that through and pull it out. So you just got to make sure you keep it all in order. That's just a little insulator that allows the current to go through without touching the body of the starter motor. As you can see, it's got this little black sleeve or grommet that comes out, and then that actually sits on the metal on the inside. You've also got this little rubber ring which comes off as a little waterproofing. And I wish I could. So as you can see here on this contact, you can see how thick it used to be, and it's worn down to almost nothing on that little edge there. So that used to be the whole thickness, and it's all just about gone. So that's why I was having the click issue when I was starting her up. So I ordered these replacement parts from all 4x4 spares. Got no affiliation with them at all, but I've got quite a few of my parts from them. Their website's really well organised. You can get new parts, reconditioned parts, and they also are wreckers as well. So you need parts for your car, pinch them off someone's car that's unfortunately been written off. And as you can see, there's a much larger contact to replace this one with. So a good little thing to do is clean all the gunk out, and as I've just discovered, there's actually a little ball bearing that's right in the bottom of where the plunger goes, where the spring sits on top of. So if you do tip it over, it's important that you don't let that get away from you, like I almost did. So you might just have to knock this out, because it's just like your wheel studs. They've got that little groove there so it can sit in nicely. So as you can see, this is the original one, which has completely worn out, worn through, bit of corrosion and gunk on it. And we're going to replace it with this aftermarket piece, which is a bit bigger, bit wider. And the advantage of that is that you have more surface area, so it shouldn't wear out as quickly. So just be able to knock that back in there. Or as we tighten it up, she'll tighten right in. So before I reassemble it, I'll just be pulling out this other side. So you get your 17mm spanner again. Loosen that off. And this is the side you have to be really careful, as I pointed out before, it's got that little connecting wire which you don't want to snap off, or you will be in a lot of trouble. Something I haven't done but I should do is you put them down, you can't quite see, but you'd put them down in the order which you pull them off, so you know which way it all goes back on again. Just carefully slide that out. I'll take you off here for a second and show you. So that's your little contact, and that's actually sitting behind this little wire, earthing wire, and little square washer there. So that's why you got to be really careful as you're pulling this out. But what's strange is this one is completely intact and completely fine compared to the other side, which is completely grooved out. So put those to the side. Put you back up for that top view. Said before, I got a new plunger as well as the solenoids, because this is where it sits on. This plunger you probably could use again, but as you can see, it's starting to deteriorate a little bit on that side. So for $55 I got the whole contact set and plunger kit delivered to my house in less than a week. Oh, it was almost 4 days, so that's really impressive for an online order for specialty car parts, in my opinion anyway. You might think otherwise. So just gonna put these contacts back in, being very careful of the one with the wire. So just take your time. What will take you an extra 30 seconds to get in will save you a world of pain at the other end. So that goes straight back in. This little rubber insulator, slide that back on. And you put this nut back on, making sure you don't have any dirt in it. Just do it up hand tight for the moment. And now the sensitive side is back on nicely. One thing that is a good idea is I did try and shake it out before, but I'm just going to get a clean rag. Just give the inside a bit of a polish up. So you can see there's a little bit of dirt and grime and crap that's built up over the 22 years this car's been around. So just give that a quick little clean. But all in all, it's really clean for how old it is. There was a few bits of the solenoid that had fallen out, so I tipped that upside down, and that's when I lost the ball bearing. So now we'll just do the other side, which had slide that rubber grommet back on. And then this little rubber washer as well, which will be the waterproofing. So as you tighten that right up, that gap will close around those little groove sections. So then you got your new contact in on that side. We'll tighten it up on this side as well. Perfect. So now we've got the new plunger. So now the new plunger and the new contact should give us a perfect connection, and we won't have that starting issue that I've had intermittently for the last few months. Just make sure they're tight. Nothing super tight, but just enough that you're not going to come undone. And then you make sure it's seated correctly on that little rubber gasket. Mine was in perfect condition, so I didn't have to replace it. But at the same time, if you are pulling it apart and it is looking a bit dodgy, for an extra couple of dollars, it's good peace of mind to have a gasket you know is not going to leak on you. Get our little 8mm spanner back. Do it loosely up until you've got them all the way down. That one's a little bit tighter, so we'll just get the screwdriver out. Put that down to a bit over finger tight. Same on that side, so they're all evenly pressed. And now you just do a little bit tighter with a spanner. And it's important to make sure it's all sitting correctly, and that's why you do it finger tight, so that you don't pinch one side of it. You tighten all of those up. The last thing to do is put the wire back on, which connects the solenoid to the actual big main starter motor itself. Rubber grommet back over the whole thing, so that will help keep all the water out. And there we go. So you just make sure you don't have any screws, nuts, bolts or washers left. All I've got left is my old solenoid contacts and the old plunger. So now we'll go and I'll show you how I got it out. I didn't record myself taking it out, but I'll show you putting it back in. It's much easier than you think it would be. There's numbers of videos of people taking off guards and brackets and all sorts of things, brake lines to get it out. But on my Model 80 series, the HZJ80, it's easy to slip in straight on the top, right next to the oil filter, and slide it straight into place. So we'll take this off and we'll go and have a go putting it back in. So as you can see, you got the starter motor here. And before you start, I've obviously already taken it off because I'm halfway through the job, but always disconnect your negative terminal whenever you do it, touching any sort of electronics on your car so you don't fry your circuits. If you look down here, that's your oil filter, and the starter motor goes in this little area here. So I'll show you how I get that in. And obviously you just pull it out the opposite direction. So when you are taking out your starter motor, my recommendation is you try and get this one off first. So just push in this little clip here at the same time you pull this little plug out. So it's a little bit fiddly, a little bit hard to get your hands in. It's easier if you get two hands up there. One's really pushing in this plug and the other one's just grabbed on and pulling it out. So after that one's off, I'd recommend taking this one off. So pull that out before you start taking out the bolts that actually hold the starter motor in, because if you take these ones out first and the starter motor falls, you have a higher chance of actually damaging the wires that come into these, which give the current to the starter motor to start. And that's just about it. So I'll go back to the top and just make sure everything's back in nice and tight, and then we'll reconnect the battery and see if she actually starts. So when you're doing it, just be careful you don't knock too many wires and plugs and filters. On other models there's not quite as much room, so you can't as easily get the starter motor in to slip in this way. Come on, go in. So on other models you have to take it out the side and inside the guard down here, take off some flaps, and you can loosen some brake lines and things like that. I could have done it that way, but this way is much simpler. So once it's in, I'll show you how it actually sits. So once you've actually dropped it in, it's easier if you go underneath to actually slide it in. So I'll take you down and show you how I do that. So once it's down underneath, there's your sump, so you know about where you are. Starter motor sits in here. You can see the bottom bolt hole and where it goes into. So that's your lower bolt hole in the starter motor, and that's where it goes into in the housing. So I'll try put this on the ground so you're able to just reach up. The top bolt of the starter motor never. It's easy to have your lower hand on the bottom holding it, and this one here, my left hand, I have my fingers up over the top so I can feel where the top bolt is coming out of the housing, and then it's the easiest way to line it up to then slide it in with all the dirt falling into my eyes. The disadvantage of using your forward drive for forward driving, when you work on it underneath, you get a lot of dirt and crap into your eyes. So we'll leave that there. I'll get the bolt for it. You just want to start getting things done finger tight. So unfortunately the first part of it will be recorded in portrait mode, which is annoying, but at least from here you can still see. So this is the starter motor here, and I've dropped it in from the top as you saw, and from the bottom you're able to have one hand underneath on one side of the chassis rail, you hold it up, and then you have your other hand goes through. And just a little trick is the top bolt stays in place, and so you can line it up and then use your lower hand this way to push it in. It's pretty tight, but it's not too bad to do. And then while you're supporting it, this lower bolt, you just do up finger tight so it's all holding together and nothing's gonna drop on your head while you're under here. So that's done up. Oh, it's not fully done up at all, but I'll turn you around a bit and then I'll show you one of the wires you have to take off. So it's still right underneath, and what you need to do is this little case here, that's got the big current goes through it, so you slide that up when you're putting it back, and this is just a little cap to protect it. So I'll go and get the nut and you'll be able to just screw this back on here. So once again, just reach over the top of the chassis rail, get the nut that I'd taken off before, and you'll be able to do that up tightly. So I'll go and get my sockets and I'll tighten that up. So now I just got, that's the wrong way. Come on, pull yourself together. Just got my socket with a long extension. I'll tighten that up. I really should tighten up the rest of this onto the housing before I tighten the rest of these wires up. So we'll just go up with the socket. It's very tight. So I'll just quickly tighten it up without filming. Just finger tight, so I haven't used the leverage of the socket and ratchet, and we'll go and do the top. So just in behind the fuel line, you can see the starter motor, this black bit and that lighter bit there. So the best way to get into the top nut there, which I took off before, is you're just gonna have to, I'm gonna have to move the camera a little bit. You just have to reach in. There's a few cables here, but they've got enough movement in them that you can push them out the way and reach in. I'll take you off the stand to see if I can actually see any. I can't actually see what I'm doing. It's all by feel. So we'll see if this comes up with anything. So that's the top of the starter motor. Move these out the way. There you go. So you just get your nut. I obviously can't show you that because there's only enough room for my hand in there, not the camera. But it's really easy by feel to get that on. So the best way to do it is you just have your ratchet and a small extension, and then that can just reach in. I won't film that because it'll be too hard to do. There's not enough room. So we'll tighten that up until it's finger tight, and then we'll tighten it right up and we'll go and do the bottom as well. So we've just finished tightening the top one. Got that real tight. So we've just finished tightening the top one. Now just get your ratchet down the bottom here and tighten that right up. Probably, because of how big the bolt is, almost as tight as you can get it. So you get a fair bit of force on it, but nothing that you're gonna really exert yourself. So I'll put the camera down and finish this off. So now that one's fully tight. Now I'll re-tighten this one here, or fully tighten it and put that cap back over. Then I'll show you the other plug that you'll have to put back on or take off when you're undoing it. So now I've tightened this one up, push that in, make sure it clips back into place, just for a bit of protection. And the final one is this little clip here. So that plugs on just here. So you feel with that a bit, it's hard to see. So it just slides straight on. You should hear it click, just like that. So this one took me a while to get off. What you need to do, I'll try and zoom in a bit for you. It's just got this little clip just here. So what you have to do is you have to push that in as you pull this plug out. You'll feel when it goes in. It's just enough so it'll unclasp. And as you're pushing, it's easy getting in here with two hands and then just pull the whole thing out. So you take that one off first, then you take off this bigger one, then you'd loosen so everything's back in, all the wires are done, all the bolts are back in. So the last thing you do before you try to start is obviously put your battery back on, because if you don't, she's not going to start. So you just quickly tighten this up. Right, now let's have a crack. Come around this way. Oh no, don't have my keys on me. That's a bit of an oversight. This'll help. So now the moment of truth. Let the glow plugs glow. And there you have it, who would have thunk it? Just the bloke, no idea what he's doing, pulls it apart, puts it back together, and she starts up first go. So there you have it. We managed to get the whole car pulled apart, starter motor out, fully rebuilt, or not fully rebuilt, but the contacts done, plunger done, bit of a clean out, all back together. It's taken me not even 2.5 hours. It took me just over 2 hours and 15 minutes. So for someone that had never done one of these before, just having a crack, pulling apart, working out the best way to access it, 100% worth having a crack. Cost me $55 and 2.5 hours about of my time, and that includes all doing the filming too. So I probably could have done it in an hour and a half, an hour to an hour and a half if I hadn't been filming it. So now the last thing is, go and throw the wheel back on, let it off the stands, and then we're good to go. I hope you have enjoyed watching if you've managed to get through this far. Hope you've learned something, hope you have a crack yourself. And then the next episode we'll go out, hit some tracks. There's a few other DIY videos that I'll show you. I've got to put some flares on. There's a few other little shits and bits that I'll be doing on the car. So hope you enjoyed. Till next time, catch you then.